Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are we feeling today? Inspired. That's amazing. Well, welcome to MGF and the last day of MGF, and I'm so happy that you're joining us in this panel. I have three amazing individuals with me in this panel. I have Hussain, a content creator. I have Maaz, a streaming content, a content streaming CEO. And then I have Leon Xiao, which is, who is a gaming law researcher. Give them a round of applause, everyone. Okay. I will just dive into the question. Hussain,
Sure.
Can you tell us about your creative process and what's your inspiration when you create content?
Sure. So what I do is I create animated educational content on the internet, and I publish them there. Since I'm creating educational content, normally I start with an idea first, of course. What am I interested in? What do I want to learn about? What do I want to share with the rest of the world? I go into an exploration phase. I would read a bunch of books, watch a lot of things, talk to a lot of people, and try to find something that is interesting to learn about and worth sharing. And then after that, once I settle down on an idea, I try to refine that. I sit down, I try to come up with a script, and then I would move on to animating that and publishing that everywhere on my platforms. Normally my biggest source of inspiration is books, because books are a fascinating medium. Because with books, you only have ink and paper. That's your only tool. That's your only tool to communicate and express yourself. And if you can, with only ink and paper, elicit an emotional response, to have someone engage with you with only using those primitive tools, then you're bulletproof, man. You can do anything. So I take a lot of inspiration from books, and I try to see what they do and try to take some of that and try to elevate it with whatever art forms that I'm in possession of, whether that's visuals, voiceover works, editing, and all kind of things, music and all sorts of things like that. So that's normally how my creative process goes.
That's amazing, and I love your content. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Maaz, so as the CEO of Starzplay, we all know Starzplay and how it's expanding in a very rapid fashion. I have a question about localizing the content for that. Does localizing content have an impact in the success of this expansion?
Of course. Of course. Localization is perhaps the number one reason behind our success in this region, because we are competing with global platforms like Netflix and Disney+. So we have to offer a localized experience end to end. So localization for us starts with how we communicate with our audience on social media, like Hussain was saying, how we engage with them, how we draw the interest. But localization is also about the content, of course, telling local stories, telling them in ways that connect and speak to the audience. Perhaps a good example of localization for us is we are currently working on a show, a reality show called The Italian Dream. So we carry the rights for the Italian League in this part of the world. So rather than simply broadcast and stream the games, what we are doing now is we're running a talent show where we will scout and recruit 28 young adults from 5 countries, Egypt, Kuwait, Saudi, UAE, and Oman, and recruit 28 young adults. And then one of the lucky, talented kids gets to play in Italian League, a guaranteed spot. And this is a way of localizing basically a European product and localizing it for the youth and the families in this part of the world.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Maaz.
Thank you.
Leon, so I introduced you as a video game law researcher. Can you help the audience understand what does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So I guess with law, usually you have a way of looking at the law. Say, for example, contract law. Then every single sector would have to engage with contract law. I think to call something video game law is a different way to think about law. We're specifically thinking about law as applied to one sector, but in many different ways. So I would say there are two main intersections between law and the video game industry. The first one being the intellectual property. So if I made a game and someone else wants to make another game, they need to be careful how much of the game they can copy. That's less my area, although there's a lot of research on that. I'm more on the content moderation and regulation of what can be put inside video games.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leon. Okay, back to you, Hussain. We talked about your inspiration when you create a piece or a social media piece. Now I want to talk about the localization aspect in your content creation. So you do create local creation, like local content, using local characters, using local language. However, your content has gained attraction globally. So can you tell us what is the secret?
You guys want to know the secret? Want to know the secret, how to make it big? The secret is no one knows. No one knows. There is no secret recipe to make a successful piece of content. I do have some theories. I do have some ideas. Why did my content resonated with a large audience? Because when I made it, I did not have in mind that it would be big globally. So I tried to use a simple language. I used my local dialect. I did not change much. I did not cater it towards a global audience. Yet somehow people from all around the world resonated with the content and found something fascinating about that. I guess because the content, even though it's kind of local, even though it touches on many, it does have a lot of local flair to it. It does explore and engage with ideas that are universal. So one of our most popular videos on our YouTube channel is about the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's an old, ancient Mesopotamian story. It's like a 4,000 years old story. We try to take that and explore it and adapt it to a modern audience. By all means, this kind of story should not work today because it was written 4,000 years ago to a different culture, to people who has different beliefs from us, and we have nothing in common with them. So their ideas and values should not work for us today. But somehow, because the story explores ideas that are still relevant to people today. It explores ideas about friendship, about grief, about the legacy that you leave behind. And these are all things that people today are still think about. They still talk about. So when you include these kind of ideas, when you infuse them into your content would naturally find a broader appeal to audiences all across the world. So that's my guess. To have your content appeal, try to infuse some ideas that appeals to humans in general, rather than only focusing on the local audiences.
Thanks.
Sorry, because that's...
It's okay. Thank you so
fine.
much. I think we should just take a little break for prayer time. Yeah? Just a minute or two. All right, Hussein. Thank you so much for that.
Sure thing.
I really appreciate you bringing out the human connection and then capitalizing on it in a positive way. So thank you for that. Mr. Maaz, now streaming services became such a natural part of everyone's life, right? So everyone here watches Netflix, by show of hand, who watches Netflix? Starzplay, Disney, Shahid. See, so it's very challenging now to find new content because everyone when they finish a series, they just they are on the look for something new, something fresh. So, do you have any strategies that help you to retain the attraction from the local viewers without losing the interest of the global viewer?
Sure. First, I want to acknowledge Hussein's answer. It was really inspiring for me, everything you mentioned and
Thank you.
about your creative process and thinking and going back to Mesopotamia and connecting it to the present day. That's very... We should talk.
Thank you, Maaz.
Localizing content, I think the first step is it has to start with the script. And this is where good writers come. And especially for the youth that's in the audience, Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed with 2 kids that are in university now, and I've seen it myself. In order to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. And a lot of us don't like to read, and Hussein mentioned this as well. Books are still the best way to become, a good writer eventually. And if there's one thing I think that's most important in that creative process, at least for the streaming content, whether you're creating a 10-minute episode or one of those 50-minute episodes for Ramadan shows, script is still the starting point and perhaps the most important aspect. So localization is at the heart of it, and script writing is perhaps where you start. But as a platform and as a service, I think one of the challenges we face is that we live in a very global world. And so as much as we rely on shows like global shows and English language shows like Friends and Big Bang Theory and The Office that everyone watches, we have to mix that with regional and local shows and movies as well. Yeah. And this region is also blessed with a lot of diversity. So it's if you have to cater to each segment of the market, we have to carry Khaliji content that's made in Saudi, UAE, but also have to carry Egyptian series and movies as well. So it's the ability to cater to each segment and interest, and this is part of the challenge in building a platform that has millions of customers, because in order to reach that scale, you will have to address different tastes, and also our tastes and viewing habits change. So some family members might watch certain type of content while others watch different type of content. And also during the day, we see differences in what people watch in the morning versus what they watch late at night. So the ability to cater to different segments is extremely important in that as you build scale and reach the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I love the fact that you gave us explanation about localization, that localization is not only translation, it's understanding the mindset of the viewer. So thank you for that. And now we go to Leon. Can I ask another question? I'm bothering you a lot today, but do we have gamers in the room?
Yeah.
No gamers?
No.
We have a gamer. 2. That's amazing. Okay. So my question is related to loot boxes. Now, as a gamer myself, when I see a loot box, I get really excited because loot box in a game is basically a booster, something that will help me reach the end very quickly. But in your specialization, what does loot boxes mean in the law of gaming?
Yeah, sure. So with video games now, in most games, you can, after you get into the video game, the game will offer you to buy various things with real money. So the loot boxes that I am more concerned about are the ones that ask you to spend money to buy. The problem is that, of course, with the loot boxes that I think you're thinking of, if you, for example, beat a stage or defeated some enemies and you got a loot box, I don't think that's a problem. The randomization adds the fun of it. You get a nice, surprising result that makes the game more fun. But when they ask you for money and the rewards are randomized, some governments become more concerned because they think, is this perhaps a type of gambling?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for shedding a light on this. I think it's very important that people understand the regulation of loot boxes. I think now it's time for our last round of question. And speaking of gaming, I will ask the question for you, Leon, first. When it comes to gaming, some people, they get a bit carried away with it and they fall into the addiction hole. So do you have any advice for our youth audience on that?
Sure. I mean, as it stands, the World Health Organization has recognized video game addiction or online gaming disorder as a disease. But I think what's important to remember is that the vast majority of people can engage with video games in a way that is healthy. Now, we are concerned about a small minority of people who might experience problems, and we need to help them address those problems. But I think for most people, especially I think the parents here today, I would encourage you to let your children play video games. They will get more benefit from it than harm.
Thank you so much, Leon. I will still ask the same question for you, Maaz. We fall into the habit of binge watching and literally turning into a couch potato. So as the CEO, from your personal perspective, what do you have to say or advise the people on these habits?
Sure. I mean, personally for me as well, I love coming home, and it's a bit of an escape to be able to tune in and forget your day's worries, whether it's an entertainment show or even a knowledge-based learning show. I think I agree with Leon that it's certainly a balance. But for example, for me, I find myself drawn into history shows. I've always been passionate about history, but going through university and college, we're more focused on sciences and never got the opportunity to really learn about history. But now it's a very good opportunity, like Hussain was saying, to even utilize that time for learning your old passions.
I think we need another short break. Okay. Hussain, keeping the best for the last. What's your advice to the as a local, no, as a content creator? I think what you say is going to be very important for our audience.
So with social media, because social media is my realm, so I'm more familiar with that. I'm more familiar with social media addictions. So I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here a bit.
Sorry, guys.
The only way I was able to make a living off of social media is by staying away from social media, because social media platforms are are productivity killers for me. So I try to make it as difficult as possible for me personally to use social media. I don't keep them on my phone for most of the time. I try to use them only when I'm sitting on my computer. I try to minimize my contact with them as much as possible. Because the way social media platforms are designed, basically these companies bring in the smartest people around. They bring in the smartest people from all around the world, and they pay them insane amount of money, and they give them one task: increase engagement.
Yeah.
Make the social media apps as addictive as possible. They are addictive by nature. It's for everyone. if anyone is experiencing some kind of social media addiction, it's not your fault that you are addicted to social media. These are addictive products. These are designed to be this way. So my approach towards that is I try to make it difficult for me personally to use them. Because while they are good, they're not all bad, but it's super easy to fall into that hole. I believe I was looking at the statistics that the government has published, I believe this year or last year, about the daily internet habit of Saudis. Apparently, Saudis use around, if I remember correctly, use the internet for about 7 hours per day. That's about 30% of your day.
Of your life. Guys.
And that's 30%. That's almost as long as you sleep. So yeah,
it's crazy amount of time.
It's a crazy amount. It's like the entire nation is a bit addicted to social media, which can be a bit good because Saudis are super active online, and so that can be kind of good. I mean, it's benefiting me. I'm making money off of them. So, but I do encourage people to try to minimize your social media intake per day. So at least try to make it as difficult as possible to access those. Don't be a hermit and live in the wood and not connect with anyone, but try to make it difficult for you to use them.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, you heard it here from a content creator. Disconnect to stay connected. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.